Hey witches, how you doing today? I have spent the last couple of weeks preparing braided cords, incense, anointing oil, and then this morning dressing candles and making bath sachets for my own initiation ritual coming up next week. And it's probably the most intricate ritual I have done so far. But does it have to be? I thought it would be interesting to sort of look at witchcraft initiations, their history, and what they may or may not entail, and how to go about doing one if you're so inclined. So before we get into it, for those of you who are new around here, my name is Taya. Welcome to the channel. We talk about all things witchcraft. And for those of you who are returning viewers, maybe coming in from another video, welcome back and thank you so much for the support. It's really appreciated. All of you, please consider subscribing. It's a great way to help us build the channel. So, initiations. So I have one coming up. I'm going to do it probably next week. It is a solitary ritual because I'm initiating, but I'm not in the same geographic location as the people who are sort of in charge of this tradition. So they've just sent me the ritual and I have to kind of do it on my own. And my initiation isn't into witchcraft per se, but into a specific tradition of folkloric witchcraft. But when the initiation is complete, I'll be able to say, oh, hi, I'm Taya, a witch of the Spiral Castle tradition. Now, to be fair, what does that mean? It really doesn't mean anything to anyone else unless they are a student or a practitioner of that very particular, very niche Spiral Castle tradition. So why do it? Why am I choosing to do this? Well, first of all, I want to belong to a community, to a group of, group of witches who all sort of work with the same craft view. We have the same sort of general outlook and viewpoint when it comes to witchcraft. We've all studied the same information and, have been led to come to sort of similar conclusions. It's also a recognition of my hard work. I have been studying this for, my first year took me 17 months to complete, a year and 5 months to complete my first year of study. And so it's sort of a recognition of all of that hard work. And really the reason I want to be part of a tradition is I'm looking for that level of structure in my witchcraft practice. Not everybody is, but for me, that was a real kick towards why I might want to get involved with a specific tradition. So there are lots of traditions of witchcraft, both Wiccan and non-Wiccan, that you can initiate into. But what about the Solitaries? That's where I really want to speak to, is what about the Solitaries? Do you need to initiate? Should you, shouldn't you? How do we look at that? So historically, and I mean recent history, like the 50s and the 60s, initiation was for specific traditions. It was not for solitaries. And in fact, you weren't really a witch if you weren't practicing with a coven, if you weren't initiated into a specific tradition, according to like those coven-based witches, right? They kind of looked down their nose at people who hadn't initiated into a tradition. But during the 70s, as more and more sort of material on predominantly Wiccan traditions became publicly available, we saw the trend in the 70s of solitary and self-initiation. And I think it was a little bit of a backlash, right? You're saying that I'm not official unless I'm initiated? Well, fine, I'll initiate myself then. So there are lots of different, initiations out there. I mean, you can just Google witchcraft initiation and find all kinds of different tips and tricks and rituals and all sorts of different things. But I thought it'd be interesting. Let's sort of look at the folklore. A very common one, in a very generic sense, is putting one hand on your head, the other hand on the bottom of your foot, and sort of pledging everything between your two hands to witchcraft or to the devil. And this really comes out of the folklore of the witch trials. So often what you would typically see is sort of this idea that you needed to renounce your Christian faith, either just verbally renounce it or sometimes as extreme as like trampling or destroying a cross. You needed to sign a pact with the devil. Usually that would come by like either verbally speaking a pact or writing your name in his black book. And then you would undergo a witchcraft baptism of some sort where you were physically marked by the devil. Sometimes you would have smecks with the devil, or he would, drink from your witch's mark. And that was kind of, you saw a lot of those sort of themes in the witch trials. A couple of really interesting and maybe a little bit more doable ideas that came from, folklore of specific regions in the Shetland Islands. They use that hand on your head, hand on your foot method. And what they did was they did that with there was a very, spoken initiation charm, if you will. And they did it at the seashore at what's called the flood tide mark. So it's the area when you do it at midnight, once the tide has gone out. And there's that area between where the water is and where it rises to, where all the sand is nice and smooth. That's kind of like the flood plain. So you have to do it in that liminal area. And you do the hand-foot method. And another interesting one from the Orkney Islands is it was like a 7 stones method where you would go down, same idea, onto that flood plain at the ocean side. And you would lay in, like, spread out your hands and your feet to make your body into like a physical pentacle. And you would put stones. You needed 7 stones. And you'd put 1 at each hand, 1 at each foot, 1 at your head, and 2 on your chest covering your heart. And then there was a specific charm you would say. And then when you were finished, you would then get up and throw those 7 stones into the ocean with malintent, speaking, negative curses or whatever as you threw them into the water. Those are kind of interesting, right? Those are some sort of historic ways of a self-initiation, but yet it's still an initiation. So, is it necessary to have an initiation to be a witch? Absolutely not. But a lot of people like the formality of it, right? Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I've been studying witchcraft. It's another thing to be like, okay, I am now, mind, body, spirit, I am a witch. So typically initiation is still found within a specific tradition, right? But being a part of a specific tradition is not required to do an initiation. You can do a self-initiation for yourself if you want to. So how would you go about it? Typically it happens after a period of study, which is often at a minimum a year and a day. So I did like a dedication pledge to a year and a day of study in the tradition that I'm in. And once I've completed that, which actually took me 17 months, then I get to do my initiation. Now, maybe you're an experienced witch, you've been practicing for a long time, you're a solitary, you're going to self-initiate. It's up to you to decide if you need to do that year and a day of study. But if you're brand new, right, maybe you want to spend some time studying before you initiate into something, because it is a pact, it is a pledge, an oath. It's something that you want to be able to stick with. And then to self-initiate, typically, I'd suggest calling up your spirits, whether that's your ancestors, your gods, your spirits, familiar spirits, land spirits, whatever it is that you work with. And speak your dedication, your vows, your oaths, and you can phrase those however you want. That's up to you to decide what exactly are you making an oath to do. You follow that up with an offering of some sort, right? To add a little oomph behind your pledge. I'm pledging this and I'm making this offering at the same time. And then often what happens with initiations is you would gift yourself something of significance. So not necessarily, I don't mean expensive, but something that is significant to you in your witchcraft practice. Very commonly, it's a piece of jewelry that will be ritually worn going forward. Or you could do something fun, like gift yourself a tarot deck. Maybe you're, maybe that's like your big witchy thing, you love reading tarot. Gift yourself a tarot deck or some type of a new tool. You can go lots of different ways for it. And basically that is sort of a simple initiation. And it can be as simple, like of just, sitting out in nature, calling your spirits, speaking your oaths, making an offering of even just something like water or whiskey to the land. And, you know, you don't even have to do the jewelry if you don't want. Or it could be a whole full-blown, you know, calling in the compass, opening up all the gates, calling in all the watchtowers, doing a whole crazy, you know, full ritual compass round with dancing and feasting and, you know, pledges and vows and you name it. It's totally up to you how you want to proceed with that, right? Just make it fit it to what type of witchcraft practice do you have, right? Do you have a very ritualistic, detailed, intricate practice, or are you like a little more simple, a little more pared down, right? Well, your initiation will match that. So I have a question for you guys. Have you initiated as a solitary or into a tradition? Do you want to share a little bit about it? And I know that's a little touchy. Not everybody wants to share the details of their initiation, and you don't have to if you don't want to. But I would be also curious, why did you choose to do it? Why did you choose to take an initiation? Or why did you choose not to? I think we could have some interesting conversation around that. So leave us a comment and let us know. Otherwise, yeah, that's our video for today. I was just thinking about initiations and I thought it would be sort of fun to share a bit of folklore and a little bit of how-to with y'all. So yeah, that's our video for today. We'll catch you in the next one.